Hello friends, this is Amy and welcome to my channel. I am using these really cute tiny little jars that I bought at Michael's, and I just want to show you a cute craft that you can make with them. So I decided to pick out 3 of them, and I'm going to put them on this little piece of wood and going to finish off the wood with some of this antique wax. I love using this because it's easier than getting stain out, easier for cleanup, and it really does look nice. Perfect for crafting. All right, we'll set that aside, and then we're going to prep our little jars. And when you're using glass, you're going to paint on glass, you're going to want to clean it off with some rubbing alcohol. And that way it'll take care of any debris or oils, especially oils that get on them, and then the paint is going to adhere a lot better to your glass. It doesn't take long for those to dry, and then you can start putting on your paint. And this Rust-Oleum linen white is one of my favorites. I really enjoy using this. Sometimes I can get by with just 1 coat, and sometimes I need 2 coats, but it is a nice thick paint that I do like. Let those dry, and then I'm going to use 2 types of ways to put it's a long-term hold and a short-term hold, meaning that hot glue will be a short-term, but the E6000 is a long-term hold, so those will not move over time. And there they are. They're stuck onto that little piece of wood. And then I'm going to use that antique wax also to put some coloring or make it look kind of old and grungy, and just put some paint or the wax right on the front of those little jars on both sides. When I decided to do these jars, I liked that flat part of the jar, and I was almost going to put, an image in one or all of them. I wasn't sure, but I decided not to. To me, keeping it plain is more of a farmhouse vibe anyway. And so just going to add a little bow to those little, pieces of twine that I put on the top of the jars. And then just showing you, I wanted to make a little border of my wooden beads, and so all I did was put them on a toothpick, and I just went along with it and added it to, just kind of made a little edge to this. And then when I got done with that, then I'm using wood glue because it's wood to wood, and then I'll use some hot glue to give it an instant hold, but that wood glue will be there for a long-term hold. And I do kind of like that a little addition. It just needed something to finish it off. And of course, I'm going to put a few little sprigs of Spanish moss here and there to kind of add to it. And in keeping it more of a farmhouse neutral kind of look, I decided to go with these. They're kind of a yellowish, whitish floral, and put a little greenery with that. And this is what I came up with. Pretty cute, huh? I really like how this turned out, and it's not overly big, but just a cute little, way to have a little pretty decor and kind of farmhouse. Well, we've got a lot more coming up. Let's keep going. DIY number 2. This is just a metal, it's like a little stand, and it looks like a tag. And I'm going to use that with one of these little prints. These are a Dollar Tree item. It's kind of a new thing, and they're meant for crafting. And so I just kind of showed you some of the images that they had in there. So I'm going to use my Dixie Belle paint drop cloth color. I love this. It's like an off-white. And just going to apply a couple of coats of that right onto the front of this metal piece and allow that to dry. And while that was drying, I wanted to put the word happy on a piece strip of white muslin. And what I'm showing you is that I'm just making sure there's no ink along the edge of those letters so I didn't have any smudges. And once I had that done, then just kind of trim it down or tear it to the size that you want. Sometimes it's easy to rip and sometimes it's not, and I'm sure it's has something to do with the grain of the fabric, if you kind of know what I mean on that. These are cute little eggs that I got at Dollar Tree, and I'm going to pair that with these 6x6 paper pads. I do have these on my Etsy shop. I'll put that in the description box so you can check it out. I use these quite a bit in my crafting because these are just fun little papers. The one side is gingham and the other side is like a faux wood look. And so I'll show you what I ended up doing with these. Get your paper and your eggs ready, and then you'll want to get your white glue out and attach that, and just make sure they're nice and dry, and it doesn't take long. And then you can just take an emery board or some sanding paper and go along the edge like this, and it just leaves a nice crisp edge. And it just pops right off. You don't even need to use the scissors for this. And then just kind of rub it along and make sure it's what you want. And I use my antique wax to kind of edge the pieces of egg. You'll see that. And then also again on this board, because I'm going to put them all on a little piece of board before I add it to that metal piece. And using my wood glue to glue those wood pieces together, because that is the best hold. If you're going to be gluing wood to wood, it's best to use the wood glue. Now here I'm just showing you, these are some little wood cutouts that I got from my friend Mary. She's a close to my heart demonstrator, or however they call them. Anyway, she sells it, and I'll put a link to her her site if you decide you want to buy some of those cute little wood pieces. And yeah, they're stainable, paintable, just kind of fun. And now I wanted to just add a little bit of, grunge or whatever to this very beautiful painted piece and kind of make it more worn looking. And so I'm just going to dry brush some of this brown on there and then allow that to dry. And as long as I had it on the brush, I was going to add it to this muslin piece. And why not the rabbit too? I hope you're enjoying my videos so far. I've got a lot more fun things coming your way. Now to get this cute little bunny to stay down, we're just going to put Mod Podge on the back side of this and just lay him flat right down on there. And I didn't put anything on top, but you certainly could if you wanted to. And then get your white glue ready, and you can just apply it like you would a paint, and just put some of the glues right on that and also on the back of your sign. And then I usually weight it down with, like something heavy so it stays on there until it's good and dry. And then I wanted to add a little messy bow. You add little scrap pieces of this and that, whatever you want to kind of match the front of your project. It's a very easy way to make a bow, and it looks adorable. And what I like to do too is I will add a little button or something right in the middle of that, and I did end up putting in a heart button. Believe it or not, I got it through that same company close to my heart. I don't know if those are still available, but that's where I got that. And just put a little yellow string inside of the button. Isn't that just sweet? And that's very inexpensive to make, just using some Dollar Tree items and, stuff that I had on hand. And just because it's got a bunny on it doesn't mean it's only for Easter. This is a very nice spring item. Well, let's keep going. I've got lots more cuties to make here. DIY number 3. Now this, I absolutely love how this turned out. I got these transfers in, and basically they're just rub-on transfers, and you can see there's 3 pages. And when you've decided what you want to use, you just take a scissors and cut out right around your image of what you want to put on your project. Now these things work nice on wood, on metal, glass, that kind of a thing. This is a piece of cedar my husband gave me. And going to kind of make a border with this antique wax, and I'll show you what I mean. Just went along it with the paintbrush and kind of left the middle of that so I could apply paint. I wasn't sure how paint and that wax was going to react, so I wanted to just kind of leave it bare. And I did the entire piece, the sides, the back, and then just wiped it away. And then I got out my Waverly Pool color, and to me this is a very pretty blue, like a sky blue, especially when it's dry. And I left it just like this, but it'd be very pretty. You could put a cloud or 2 in there. I was just trying to make a little scene for this pig to be, laying on. He's in the sunny skies, and he's laying on this nice, beautiful grass, which is scallop color. So imagine some clouds in that blue, and you could take a darker green and make little wisps of like grass. Of course, a person thinks of all this later. That's how it goes. And this is just an attempt to kind of blend those 2 together. But most of it gets covered up by the transfer anyway. Make sure that's good and dry. And I did go along the edge just to kind of rough it up and make it look worn. Before you put your transfer on, make sure you get any dust off of that you've created. And you just simply pull off the back, lay it down on your wood. And you can see exactly where you want it. Press it down. And then you're going to take that little stick, and that's where you're going to rub it on to your wood. And peel it off, and take your time because there may be a piece that's not quite down. So if that happens, just lay it back down, rub it where it needs to go down, and then you can take it off. And that is how easy it is. I didn't think this little cutie needed anything more. I just loved it. I thought, should I put ribbon? No. This little guy is so cute. It needed nothing. It's just going to be a cute little display piece in my home. Do you guys agree that pigs are kind of coming in? Do you remember back in, well, it was more of the 90s when, there was sheep and geese that were in style? Well, now I think it's pigs and cows. Let's keep rolling. DIY number 4. I got these at Target. They were like $1 in their dollar section, and I decided to make a mini book stack. I just thought that is a way to use these up. So I've got my hazelnut color, and that's going to make a very beautiful brown, that more of a farmhouse color. And this will be part of one of the books. This is a new color I bought, and it's called Harbor. And I do like this color, but I ended up changing it out, and I'll show you that. Here's the drop cloth. So I put it all together, and I got out my vintage duck egg, and I covered up that Harbor color because it just wasn't quite right. Sometimes when you buy things, you're thinking, oh, this is perfect, but it wasn't quite perfect. Now it's perfect. And so I'm just getting a little truffle color. It's just a brown, and my aim is just to kind of add some grunginess to this so they each look like individual books. And after I put this on, then I actually even got out and did a little sanding to make it look like each book has been loved and read and worn, and it doesn't look like one solid piece, even though we're gonna glue it together to be one solid piece. Before I glued it, I wanted to go ahead and put my lettering on, and I didn't have anything that was really that small for letters, so I decided to get my good old Sharpie out, and I'm going to draw on and do my best and write out the words that I wanted. And now this is my, I'm finishing the top here, but when I start doing my writing, I'm doing my best to do something similar to the Rae Dunn look, where the letters are skinny and tall and just scream farmhouse. So here I go, farm fresh eggs. If you needed to get a pencil and do that first, that is perfectly fine. That'd be a great way to make sure all those letters are exactly where you want them to be. I did not do that. Most of the time it works out just fine that I just kind of wing it. But some, it takes practice to do that too. I wish I could do better with my lettering, but for this simple, farm type look, these just work out perfectly. And I like using the Sharpie. I've got control over, what I'm doing for lettering. Maybe someday I will learn how to do it with paint, but that's not today. I'm just so busy with everything. I don't take the time to do stuff like that. All right, I was pretty happy with how that turned out. And now I can glue these pieces together. And of course, I'm going to use the wood glue because it's all glue. And then I had this transfer of a hand, and I'm just using some black paint, going to go through that silk screen transfer and pull it right off. And it turned out perfectly. Love it. That just tied it all together. And I thought, we've got to have some ribbon, but what am I going to use? I don't have any gingham ribbon that is this size. That's the beauty of having fabric. I was able to just tear a piece that was perfectly sized for what I needed for this craft. Then snip off the ends and you're good to go. It needed nothing more. I considered putting some eggs. When I started, I was thinking I would put a couple of white eggs at the top, but it really didn't need it. I just love it just the way it is. How about you? Do you like this one too? What a fun little mini book stack. Easy, you guys can do this. Use what you have. Well, we got more fun stuff coming right up. DIY number 5. This one is really quick and easy using a peat pot. Usually they sell these in, stacks of 6, and they're not very expensive. I just took some of my drop cloth color, and I am just applying it with a sponge. And the goal here is to let some of that peat pot color peek through so it looks kind of, vintage and old and grungy. And then to fill in inside, I just wadded up a little piece of tissue paper and placed it in there. And I already had out my Spanish moss. So we're going to make a little nest. And if you want, you can kind of glue that in places too. And then I'm going to add 2 sweet little eggs. They're waiting to be born. And there they are, a set of twins. And I'm just kind of securing things. It needed something more, and so I was kind of digging through my little wood pieces, and I found a wooden heart, and I decided to stain that with my antique wax. Stain both sides and just kind of rub it off with your paper towel. That way everything's off of that, the wax part that would impair, the stamping is what we'll do next. And just kind of rubbing it off. And now I had a stamp that says, hold on to hope, I think it was. And I only wanted the hope part. So this is how I did my inking. So I was only inking up the word hope. And then just press that down. Sometimes I'll leave it just a little longer to give it time to adhere to the surface you're putting that stamp on. Voila! Turned out great. All right, we're going to put that right on the front of this peat pot, and I have got some twine to add to this. And using my hot glue, it sat on there very nicely and stayed on there very nicely. But we weren't quite done at this point. Even though we have a heart that says hope, we needed a little note for those little furry friends inside those eggs that said love. So I hand wrote that out on a little piece of paper, and then I did crumple it up and made it kind of grungy with what was left on with that antique wax. Now this could be glued in. I wasn't sure where I wanted it. I'm just fussing around. Maybe glue it in when you decide, because it might blow out. But now those little birds will know they're loved when they're born. What'd you guys think? Isn't that just adorable? I love how that turned out. And yes, we've got hope for the incoming spring that's coming. Yay! Spring is on its way. Well, let's keep going. We've got some more fun things here. DIY number 6. We got a total of 10 today. Look at this one, you guys. You're going to love this one. This one, we are going to make some cement eggs. I am putting some shortening on the inside to make sure that the quick cement that I use is able to come out. Now, when I did this, I learned from it that you want your cement more, use more water, but not too much water. It's kind of a delicate balance. Anyway, when I finished and took the eggs apart, you'll see where there's gaps of no cement. Now at this point, if I would have made sure everything was pushed way down into the egg, it probably wouldn't have happened. I've seen where other people have taken and drilled a hole in the top of the egg and it's all put together, but to me that seemed very messy. I wanted to do it this way. Either way is probably fine. I just cleaned away the cement on the outside, and just know that this quick cement, they tell you got to get this done in about 10 minutes, so you got to work kind of fast. So I know the second batch will be really good, but here I've got them done, and I let those sit for about 3 hours, and then I decided to take the egg off because I didn't want it to be part of it. And so I'm very gingerly trying to unscrew it or, wiggle it off of that cement. And just take your time, and I did squeeze it a little bit, not too hard, but it is hard at this point. Now you can see where there wasn't any cement. We've got some gaps in there. But overall, they look pretty cute. I started out with 6, I ended up with 5 because on one of them, when I did the unscrewing, it actually came apart in the middle. Now this would be the spot where you're going to want to do a little sanding. It'd be easier to sand it now than later. I was happy with these as far as I could go. They're not perfect, but they're pretty cool. You could add to these little guys. You could put ribbon on them or, paint them even. But to me, the good old concrete look just was so sweet. What do you guys think? How fun and not hard at all. That's another thing that's in now is concrete items. Having fun so far? I know I am. Let's keep going. We've got DIY number 7. Okay, this is from Target. It's thicker. It's like a 2-inch bunny. So I took everything off of it and I'm going to put down one of these. They're called self-adhesive wall tiles from Dollar Tree. And what I like about this is it is, reminds me of those old ceiling tiles in those old hotels or restaurants, and just so pretty. And so I went around the rabbit, cut it out, and I just used hot glue to glue it down onto the rabbit. And then I used my chalk paint and just painted right over the top and painted every surface of that rabbit with this linen white. And I do believe it was at least 2 times, that I went through, make sure it dries in between coats, but do the entire thing. Okay, so now I've got that on, and now I'm just going to take some black paint and just go with that where it's like you have enamel underneath and it's chipped, just in little pieces where, it'd be a natural chip mark on the edge, that kind of a thing. Don't you just love that look? Oh, it's so fun and so inexpensive if you do it this way. That rabbit did cost $5. You could probably find it cheaper elsewhere, but I just liked how thick it was. And there it is. That little bunny would be great just on its own, or you could put it in a basket. You could surround with flowers or eggs, anything like that, a tray. It would even work on some tiered trays if it were, the trays were wide enough. Isn't that cute? Let's keep going. DIY number 8. Now this is just a discounted item from Dollar General. It's bigger, and I'm just showing you right here. I was kind of fussing trying to get that backing off. What I ended up doing is I put it over the paint can and just pushed down and it popped right off. No problem. So once I had that popped off, I basically just wanted to take off that front and it just peeled right off. And then I'm going to make sure every little piece is off that's loose, and I put a couple of coats of the white paint on it. And this is going to become our background for our napkin paper decoupage. And here's the cute little bunnies we're going to use. Now the trick with this is you're going to want to make sure you get down to the layer. This happens to be a 3-layer napkin. Make sure you get down to that top layer so you only use 1 layer when you're using this. And then to go around it, it's best to tear the edges rather than cut the edges. And first I'll show you, I'm using the Mod Podge technique where we're going to add heat instead of putting it on when it's wet. So just apply this down. And then once you've got it all completely covered, set it aside to dry. And then I'm just tearing around the edges while that's drying. And that actually feathers into place a whole lot easier than if you just left it blunt. Okay, and now it's dry. Put your pretty little bunnies down there. And then you're going to use an iron, a hot iron, and just apply that to the top. And it'll actually melt that Mod Podge behind the tissue paper, and it'll activate that and it'll stick great. And this is a great way of not having any problems with like, wrinkles and tears, that kind of a thing. And I didn't use anything in between the iron and the tissue paper. Just do it and take your time and make sure you got enough heat on there. And as you look at it, you'll see that it's, glued down if it's done that. Just kind of look at your edges. And this way you don't have to put anything on the top unless you want to. As far as Mod Podge, I mean. How fun is that? Okay, let's get it back into its frame. I'm just going to put a little wood glue, of course, and then I just popped it right back into its frame. And now I thought it needed a little something, so I'm just going to dry brush some of that white paint right on the outside of that frame. I love how that brown frame just kind of blends in with the color of the bunny fur. It just kind of it's perfect for it. I also considered pulling out some purple, like lavender, but in the end, I thought it doesn't need anything. It's just, I got enough. Isn't that just cute? Just a farmhouse little print. So fun. And again, it can be used for longer than just Easter. We'll keep that out for spring. DIY number 9. This is another fast and easy DIY. This is a a bottle I had, and it actually did have this elderberry and tonic in it, and it was kind of a health drink, kind of for immunity. Anyway, I kept it because I thought it was the coolest bottle. And so I wanted to look old. And so I'm just going over it with some sanding paper. And this label actually kind of had I don't know if it was a wax or a plastic. It was kind of tough to get this to scuff up. But once I did put the color on as far as the antique wax, and you'll see it did absorb it. So this will scratch it up. You can kind of see it's scratched and looking kind of beat up at this point. And then here I'm just going to add that antique wax. You could use brown paint, whatever you're fancy. The brown just kind of makes it look so old, and I just love it. Just kind of here and there, and then wipe it off and splotch it on here and there. You could put a little black in there too if you wanted to. And be sure to add a little of that onto the glass where you've scratched it up, because that'll help, give it some aged look. All right, once that was kind of dry, I got out my twine and I wrapped it around. And at this point, I was thinking it was enough, but I did end up adding some more into it. But I tied this off, and I thought this would be really cute with some lights and flowers. I will link in the description box as well. I bought it out of Amazon, and it's actually like little seed bead lights, or whatever you call them. They're just mini lights, and it's on a strand. And then it's attached to a little battery operated thing. It's like a cork, and they're plastic. The cork is plastic, and it's got a little knob on it. You can turn it on and off. I believe it came in a package of 10, and it wasn't very expensive. Because the neck of this bottle is larger, I had to glue it to the edge rather than just stick it inside. Some of the regular size bottles, you can just pop it right in the top. But here we're just feeding in those lights. They also have different, you could do lighted. I just went with like a soft white, but you could do multicolor, I'm not sure all the colors, but you could check it out. And here I am just turning it on and showing you how cute that is. And before I was done, I did add a little more of that Dollar Tree ribbon. It's got that burlap and lace, and added that onto it. And just popped on some fake lavender flowers on the top. How fun is that? Do you guys like that one? The next project I love. It's my very favorite one. Here we are, DIY number 10. I did see a project similar to this. This is my version. Taking some popsicle sticks, these are not the standard size, they're a little wider, and just trimming off the tops with the scissors to give it a pointy top because we're going to have a picket fence. And basically, I'm just going to make a fence using the popsicle sticks and some wood glue, and just do your best at making a fence that's going to fit inside the little box that's a Dollar Tree box. And there it is. So I just want to show you how I'm going through the process of adding in glue. You know, do your wood glue when you can. That's your permanent hold, and then you can add in some hot glue to kind of keep it temporarily in place. So this is going to become a little backdrop for what we're going to make. And the bunny butts, that's the thing that is kind of in style too, is where the bunny is digging around in the garden, and he happens to be digging around for a carrot. And so here we go with this process of making a cute little box with the bunny in it. All right, I have this Waverly Steel. I decided to go with a gray. This Waverly Steel was very thick. It's quite old and getting dried out, but I, went and used it anyway. I ended up tossing it when I was done, but I was able to, get enough that I could finish painting this. And then I just wanted to dry brush a little white and also some black onto it, just to give it some aged look to it and look like it's worn. You definitely don't want, with farmhouse decor, anything to look too new. I also want to explain too, the lettering that you'll see in the next part. I used you use these dies, and it's like you pinch it in between plates, and it'll cut out paper with the die shape. It's something that I have had for a long time. It's just a machine that you hand crank. You could use stickers. You could use something if you had a Cricut or a Silhouette to cut out these letters, or you could just do it by hand. But these are the dies that I used, and the dies are Lawn Fawn, that's the company, and it's called Henry's ABCs. And I chose those because it fit perfectly for this project. And this is just black cardstock paper. And just adhere those down piece by piece, and using white glue, and there you got it. Everything's in place. And then I wanted to fill that bottom with, this is some floral foam. Just glued that down, and then wanted to put some of the greenery again, something for that bunny to be digging in and for those carrots to grow in. And just kind of digging in a little hole in there so I could hot glue it in so those carrots stay right where they're supposed to. And I only had 3, but that's okay. We'll add some flowers and some greens into this. And as we go, we got to leave a spot for the bunny. And you can see that little opening for that bunny. This is definitely something you can leave out longer than Easter. It's a very pretty spring decor. Like I said, this ended up being my very favorite. I think the most kind of fun part was the fluffiness of the bunny body and then that greenery. It just was like, wow. Now, if you want to make a very nice, big, fluffy bunny body, this is the way to do it. This is like your cereal box kind of not paper, but cardboard. It's thin. And so make 2 of these exactly the same size. And see how I've got them together, and then you're just going to cut them away because now we're going to be able to wind some yarn. And I happen to have the chenille yarn from Dollar Tree, and this is how you do it. You just start winding, 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 and winding. The more yarn you use, the fluffier your little body of your bunny is going to be. Now at this point, I'm done winding. I have not tied anything, I just trimmed it off, and I'm holding everything into place. Now, you're going to want to have very sharp scissors, and you're going to put the tip of that scissors right between those 2 pieces of cardboard, and while holding everything in place, you're going to cut through the entire piece, go around the entire piece. It's still, nothing's tied off. Now I'm going to very gingerly pick this up and put a piece of string right through the middle of those 2 cardboard pieces, and then you'll tie it off. Just bring it right through there, and then you're just going to tie it off at the end there, and do it once and then do it twice. Make sure you got a good knot on the end so nothing comes apart. You will have a few strays like I do in this one, but on the whole, it's all in there. Okay, now that you've got that tied, now you can remove that cardboard. And there you go. It's a little bunny body. And like I said, there was a few strays in there, but sometimes that can't be helped. Trim it down to what you want it at, if you want it nice and neat, or if you just want it a little messy like mine. And then I'm just going to kind of fit it in there and see how well it fit. See if you need to trim it down anymore. I liked where it was, and so I'm just going to kind of glue it down inside there and hold it into place until that glue dries. And now we need some feet hanging out of there. And so I got out some white felt, like the felt you can get like at Walmart. And I just cut ovals or teardrop shapes, and then you use felt to make the backs of their little feet. And now make sure when you're gluing it in that you want to put the heels, that's going to be heels up. So you can see he is digging down into that dirt. And my example had little bunny ears, and so I decided to cut out bunny ears. But here, before we did that, here's his little bunny tail. Is this starting to look like a little bunny digging around? I wonder if he's finding any carrots in there. Here's the backs of his ears. To me, that really added to it. You make it like, oh, wow, he really is digging in there. Yep. Now you can see why this one was my favorite. How fun is that? You guys could make one of these too. It took a little while, but oh, how fun it was to make. Oh, look at how cute that is. I want to thank you all for watching my video. I truly appreciate it. I'm trying to get this thing to grow. If you could give it a like, if you truly liked what I did, then I know what you want me to do for more content. I appreciate you coming over, and we will see you next time. Goodbye, my friends.